Okay, why don't we go ahead and get started? We'll call the order. And I think the first order of business is a lot of new faces. We can go around the table and introduce ourselves.
Yeah, all right, so I'll go ahead and start here in the room. I'm George Andrews. I'm sure you all know me. I work for City of Pueblo as Energy Efficiency Coordinator, and so I help facilitate these meetings and a lot of other energy projects and initiatives. So I'm excited to see the commission grow and connect with you all today. So we'll go this way.
Hi, I'm Dylan Goodman. I'm the city's new transportation planner. I'm sitting in as a guest today, but the mayor just approved my application, so I should be
Thank you.
sitting in.
Congratulations.
I'm in the same situation. I'm Mike Wakefield, professor of management up at CSU Pueblo. I've seen Edgy before. We've never met, but I've seen you on Facebook. So
Yes, why don't you go ahead, Edgy, and introduce yourself?
My name is Edgy Walrath. I've been on the committee since the beginning. I'm a retired Xcel Energy employee.
Jim Tomsick, retired electrical engineer. I have a 30-year career with Western Area Power and the Bureau of Information.
I'm Ken Dante, the current chair of the commission. We get some people to admit.
Great.
And my background is engineering, also.
Hi, I'm Bill Townend. My family's been in Pueblo for a long time. I've been away many other places, doing kind of medical research, but I'm kind of back home again now, so.
Good.
Steve Naraki, past city councilman, couple-time loser in political races. And also the executive director of SRDA for 36 years. And there's one of my bosses across, so I'm gonna be on your behavior. And been here since the beginning, so.
I'm Reese Albrecht, guest today. I'm actually a manager of digital marketing, but local, and have a lot of energy projects that I'm currently working on in my house specifically. I love the idea of all this, so enthusiast, you can call me on my end. Data scientist as well.
Awesome, great.
I'm Thea Rodriguez. I'm a health promotion specialist at the Pueblo Health Department, and I work with the West Side neighborhood. So I have a lot of community experience and also strategic planning, all of that sort of thing.
Good morning or good afternoon. Hi, John V. Hill, Black Hills Energy Community Affairs, and a member of this committee.
So Ken, I did hear, well, you haven't been, you walked in. You said
I'm Alan Ward and I'm late again.
I didn't mean that.
But I'm on the advisory commission.
And, yeah, there's some people online.
Yep, let's go ahead and just give a quick introduction for our folks online, starting with Mr. Michael Briscoe, if that's okay.
Yeah, hi, I'm Michael. I'm a sociology professor at CSU Pueblo, and my area of research is environmental sociology.
So, Tom, would you like to give an introduction?
Sure. My name is Tom Corlett. I'm a member of this Energy Commission. I was on the one prior, actually. I'm a member of the Colorado Renewable Energy Society's Policy Committee, and my last paid job was with the Frank Lloyd Wright Foundation in Arizona and Minnesota. I've been a long time Pueblo energy advocate, and I've probably the eminence gris, one of the oldest people here that have been doing this thing for a long time. Don't hold that against me. And I am very excited about doing the things we're doing at the moment, and it's great to see you all here this evening. Sorry I can't be there. Had some issues here at home, so I appreciate it. And then you want to hand it off to Grace?
Thanks very much. Hi, my name is Grace Rink. I am in Denver right now. I am with the company AECOM, where I work with municipalities all over the country on decarbonization, sustainability plans, climate action plans. I just joined the company this past fall. I was previously the chief climate officer for the city and county of Denver. And I talked with George recently about everything that you're interested in doing, and just thought I would join today and listen in and see if I can offer any words of wisdom or advice or insight today. Thank you. And how about over to Iris?
Hi, everybody. I'm Iris Clark. I'm a longtime resident of Pueblo and a longtime advocate of energy going way back. Tom, I might be competing with you for the for the oldest title. Energy, solar flashes. I was the editor for the state energy publication years ago and helped start the San Luis Valley Energy Center in Alamosa, and then later served on the Energy Resource Center board in Colorado Springs, and have not been that involved here in my time in Pueblo, but I'm very interested in some of the issues that are coming to the forefront right now. And I'll pass over to Edgy.
I already introduced myself, but thank you. I think we got a couple of Lauras that are ready.
Okay.
Tyler, yeah.
Oh, Tyler.
Hi, guys. I'm Tyler Surratt. I am a member of this Energy Commission. I also own Steel City Solar in Pueblo West. We provide residential and commercial solar in our area. So that's what I do. And I'm also very familiar with, my background is tax shelters, fundraising, and I was the chief financial officer for several different companies.
Great, thanks, Tyler. Ms. Solano, would you like to give a quick introduction?
Yep. Hi, everyone. I apologize. I'm actually currently driving through Alamosa. And so I might have a choppy connection here coming back from doing energy tabling at an ag conference. But I am a member of the Energy Commission. I work for Tri-State Generation and Transmission doing energy services and programs. And I also participate in a number of state and local energy related commissions. So happy to be present and hear from everyone.
Yeah, that was Laura Guess, who is the vice chair of the commission.
Yeah. And we have Ms. Solano in her winter wonderland.
You know, I switched from the holiday to January, and so I found the winter January look. Hello, I am Laura Solano. I'm an outgoing chief of staff to Mayor Gradisar, and will be retiring at the end of the month. But from the mayor's office, support George Andrews and the committee in your work and value those. And I know that Mayor Graham will be looking forward to joining you in a coming meeting. But I was happy to log in today to say thank you. And it looks like a full meeting, and that's fabulous. I'll be quiet, and you'll see me exit. I need to be at a 5 o'clock meeting out of City Hall, so I'll exit quietly about 4:45. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Laura, and thanks for all you do and all you've done. Okay.
So you said that since you started, when did it start?
We're going on our fourth year.
Okay.
4 years in July.
Okay.
So I was just talking to George. I've been chair of this commission's going on 2 years. So it's probably time to do a new election on.
And I was first chair, so
yeah,
we're passing me over. Just for the record.
Oh, okay. Going on to the agenda. The consent agenda is basically to approve what we're going to talk. So if there's anybody that wants to change the agenda, now's the time to speak up. Otherwise, the next step is to approve our minutes from the last meeting, which are kind of in the second page of the handout. And the way we do that is we do that by a vote of commission members.
So I would move approval of the minutes.
Second.
Okay, everybody approve, say yes.
Yes.
Anybody disapprove, say no. Okay, minutes approved. So that takes us into committee reports. So there's two committees. One is kind of a policy committee. And by the way, these committees, if somebody wants to participate on them, let George or I know, and we'll get you involved, or get the committee chair to talk about it. So Alan is the chair of the policy committee. So do you have a readout to give?
I did. One of the reasons I was late is I just decided to do a security update on our computers. I normally bring my computer with me and read from it. So I'll just try to shoot by memory. So we've met a couple of times in the last month. We've talked quite a bit about the PISAC recommendation. and thinking about how the Energy Commission might want to make a statement related to that. So if the commission is comfortable with it, the policy committee will continue drafting a written statement with the hopes of getting it out to the entire commission prior to the March meeting, hopefully for consideration to go forward with that. It's kind of in just a real broad overview. Essentially what we're saying is right now renewables combined with batteries are the cheapest and fastest way to decarbonize. They're consistent with the city's resolution that says they want to be 100% renewable. And therefore, we don't think it makes sense to chase after nuclear at this time.
So does everybody know what group you're talking about?
Probably not.
Okay.
So PISAC stands for
Pueblo Innovative
Thank you.
Energy Advisory Solution Committee.
Something like that. So what it's set up for is, the Comanche Power Plant, that's been in our community since the 70s. Hey, it's about the same age as me. Is now being decommissioned unit by unit. The first unit was taken out of commission last year or 2 years ago. We'll be taking unit 2 down next year, and then unit 3, I believe, in 2030 or 2031. And so there's been a desire to sort of figure out what to do with that site, and how to potentially repower it. The PISAC committee, from what I can tell, their charge was how can we use that particular property to maximize tax revenue and employment for the local community. And it turns out that building a outrageously expensive nuclear plant is the best way to enhance tax revenue and payroll, although it may have some downsides to it. So I think we just thought that the commission may want to weigh in. For one, nuclear is not considered renewable. It doesn't have carbon emissions, or at least any direct carbon emissions, but it is not renewable, so therefore inconsistent with the city's stated goal in their resolution. So that's kind of what the focus of our position paper will be.
And that group represents who? Who do they advise?
The PISAC?
Yeah.
It's an Excel commission.
Yeah, it was set up by Excel. I kind of get
And the county commissioners were.
Yeah, county commissioners and Francis Concelia, I believe, is sort of the driving force behind it. We also talked about the continuing desire to do a strategic plan for the commission to just kind of help us stay on track, focused on the most important things. I think we may have more discussion of that later in the agenda. I don't know, Ken, can you help? What am I forgetting?
Well, I think we talked a lot. I'm part of that committee, by the way, as is Tom Corlett. We talked a lot about the strategic planning and how we need to do that. That's been a point of discussion for several commissions. We were hoping to get that facilitated by the city, but I think the change in the city governance has kind of slowed that down a little bit. We do have a meeting with Mayor Graham later in the month.
February 23rd.
February 23rd. Right. It's at 11:30. It's a 30-minute meeting, so we have to be real concise with her. So we want to spend a little bit of time talking about that. I think there's some things coming up that we need to address with our investor-owned utilities that are serving the Pueblo city, the city of Pueblo. One is to kind of get an update, and I think we had a request into John to arrange that, to kind of tell us where the current Black Hills ERP is.
Sure.
The other thing is Excel is asking for some rate increases for the gas system, and I think it's right that the city has an intervener for this to kind of guide the city. The person that they were using was a lawyer out of Denver called Davison. I think his first name is Mark.
Yeah.
Whether the mayor wants to continue on with him, it's her choice, but that would probably be our recommendations, to continue with him. And then some other things that are going on. in this next council meeting, Andrew Hayes has an ordinance coming up to do a energy performance contract, or EPC, for the city buildings, and George has been working on this too. We've been kind of asking for that for a while. Now we're seeing that come to fruition. And the idea behind this is it's going to save the city a bunch of money. And in the process, probably build out a bunch of renewable energy to power that city. So I think that's going to be a big benefit to our city government, and free up a bunch of money to help in other ways, to really help the citizens. So those are kind of topics that we'll talk about there. 30 minutes doesn't leave a lot. So I'd be asking for, a subgroup of this commission to go with us to that meeting.
Another one or two people to attend, maybe.
Yeah, well, I guess people could attend. They may not be able to, they can attend to listen, but we probably want to make sure that we use that 30 minutes wisely.
Does that conclude committee reports?
And Edgy had the other commission, to do with energy performance. Anything to report on that, Edgy?
What we're up to, just let everyone know, we started out as energy efficiency for the buildings and the rebates and things. But Andrew Hayes really took that part of our committee and really ran with it, and been working with the Black Hills and also with his departments in order to look at the efficiency. So we've kind of moved on. We're looking at more at solar for the city, contracts with the community solar gardens, if those are still possible, and getting some of the more energy, the non-fossil fuel energy, alternative energies close to town. The big new thing is batteries, and Xcel got $10 million to work on the iron generated batteries, and they were working on it already. So they were working on that. That's real fast. We really haven't met much. We're in the process of making what our group is, since we're changing, and a lot of the group here doesn't know, but we're also been working on bylaws and things like that. One other thing that's kind of been repeated, we're not really looking at nuclear energy. I'll tell you a fast story. I work for Xcel, and I know Xcel's behind this, and I don't blame them to try to have distribution coming from something. And, the potential, my joke was years ago is, put that energy on my house, put solar on my house, put batteries in my house. Don't put it so far away, that we have to pay you to bring it here. So I think it's, the utility industry is a dying industry, and they're trying to have their last gasp of energy. Here, to give you an example, back in 2016, Xcel came up with this great idea that it was called gasification. It means take the coal, basically, and what they used to do back in the 1900s is they would compress the coal in these big silo-looking things, and that's how we had methane gas for those lights inside big buildings. They weren't coming from distribution. And they wanted to do this because of what they thought would help, save their industry. But it's an old technology, 1900s. Nuclear is an old energy source, and I don't have any problem with nuclear. If they had it right now, where I can go, where the city can go buy it, and they can go, set it out there where Comanche was, but it's so far away in time before it'll be usable. And the other thing is, how are they going to get these rods to us? That's my problem. I wonder if even Colorado would allow a truckload of nuclear rods to come up by 25 to bring them to Pueblo. And so I think the problem with nuclear is it's an old technology. It's gone unless they come up with something new. I would have loved 30 years ago, 40 years, if I could have went down to Loaf and Jug and got me a rod for my car, and it would last me 20 years. We could have done that, but that nuclear was had so many regulations on it now, back then. So it's just not valuable. The spent rods, they still don't know what to do with it, versus batteries. They learn to recycle those, and solar and wind are just doing wonderful. But anyway, does anyone else in my group, Alan or George, want to add anything onto that?
Nope.
No.
Okay.
Cool, we're done then. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, thanks, Edgy. We'll go on to committee, not committee repairs.
Hey,
George Andrew up here.
sure. So just have a couple updates to share with everyone. I'm going to share the screen now. So here is our ChargePoint data. Mentioned this the last time or our last meeting. Sorry, just trying to get these out of the way. Okay, so for the city's ChargePoint account with 10 ports, we can see that sessions on the left are trending upwards. So December, 170 unique sessions, and in January, 217. So there's definitely utilization. More people are going out and charging. So here we see the average session length is over 7 hours, and 4 hours of that is idling. So to me, that's saying that people are charging, but they're just waiting, or they're at work, they forget their vehicles. So more idling than charging.
Taking up space.
Yeah, it's also good parking.
Right, taking up space. We also have unique drivers here, so sort of mixed over the last couple of months. Well, from the high in September, 35 different unique drivers, compared to January last month down to 21. So that could indicate people are traveling through town here for the holidays. So sort of sporadic and distributed. So station usage, this is more about the session length, but between less than 3 hours and over 6 hours, there's about 5 and 4 sessions. So people are parking and probably waiting a lot in their charging. Okay, and then another key piece of data here, energy and megawatt hours for January, over 4 megawatt hours, compared to December, just under 2.5, so almost doubled in January. And then for just this first week of February, 894 kilowatt hours.
George, this is public, the public ports, right? This is not dealing with a police station at all, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So for the public ports that are open, the city is not charging to use these ports until September. To get people charging.
I kind of have a comment, if it's appropriate now, about this, because I'm a user of these ports, okay? Number one, they're free, okay, up until September of this year, right? So people are getting this energy free. These are level 2 chargers, but they're not high amperage. So, if you want to take your battery in your car up substantially, you're going to be there a long time, okay? I think there ought to be a penalty for people that park and just leave their car and take up the power from somebody else using it. That's typically what happens in some of the superchargers, right? If you're sitting there, if your car's sitting there taking up a spot and you're not paying attention, you get a penalty.
Right.
It costs money, right? That would cure that problem.
Right.
If the meter maze Parker.
We've got 2 things to address. One is for people who don't have an EV and park in an EV charging spot. We're working on an ordinance to make that an offense so that it can be moved, ticketed, whatever.
Yeah.
And then the second piece of that is that ChargePoint does have a way to disincentivize people from just parking and sitting, taking up the space, staying connected. That we would have to essentially do a rate change, right? Because we have our rate structure set by council. So we would need to take that back to council by resolution to update that. Those are dynamics that are obviously becoming more of an issue now, haven't been so far. So if this continues to get worse, there's a couple ways we are looking to address it.
And there are a lot of these charges. I think the cities work. I mean, there's been some issues I've had with them too. But it seems like the city ones are working good. There's the one that's sitting over by the courthouse doesn't work. which is a county one. And, Black Hills, I know I've talked to John about this and it's an issue of getting ChargePort to react to it because ChargePort owns this. You provide them the energy at the zero cost, right?
Well, I think they still have to serve, we have that same service contract and getting them down to service their equipment is the problem.
Yeah. So, those things need to be addressed because they're pretty annoying when you go to expect to, be plugged in. And as we all convert to EVs, and we will, this is going to be a major problem. There are some companies like Tesla that have solved this problem, that have chargers and the cars geared up to it. I own a Tesla and that's why I bought it because the infrastructure was there. But when you experience one of these EVs, you'll never go back, okay, to it. I mean, they're so efficient and they're so low cost to operate. It's amazing.
So here's how EVs charging has helped. It's like removing over 15,000 kilos of greenhouse gas from the atmosphere and like planting 388 trees and letting them grow for 10 years. So that's a little bit about the environmental impact. And so this is basically just the utility cost of what the city could be recouping if it was estimated based on about 12 cents per kilowatt hour. That might be a little low. But
is that for just that month or is that for year to date or what is that number?
Over the last 30 days.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I think that would just be interesting to know because I've been asked that multiple times, but how much is this costing the city? And
But that's
I don't know.
That's at 6 cents a kilowatt hour.
Right.
And the rates are higher than that.
It's about
Are they on the
14.
on the structure that's offered under the DO?
Great question.
So there's specific
We
rate.
can have a conversation about it.
Yeah,
I don't know for sure. I think that they're on the EV rate structure.
yeah, and I think that's lower than that.
Correct.
So,
They're set up with a different demand charge and a lower energy cost.
correct.
So
So, so the service the city is providing, no, it's not a wide use, not everybody gets this, but there's a lot of, for a few $100s, you're serving a lot of people, right? So,
So how many charging stations are there?
there are 3 public with 6 total ports right now. And grants that have been received that are gonna have 5 more, I believe, put in. I may be off on a couple, but a couple of the Main Street Garage. There's also grants pending applications that are going in still. So hopeful that we're gonna see quite a bit more infrastructure coming in, both level 2 and level 3 chargers. We also just ordered we talked last time about the Beam EV chargers. We ordered 4 of those. 2 of those will be made available for public use. They're solar, charge a battery, and then that way, if there is somehow an event where we're disconnected from the grid, there's still some way to be able to charge a vehicle or whatnot. We've got a couple of those that are gonna be set up for parks to use. And they have some electric pickups that are coming, and rather than drag power to the charging points, those are gonna be set about the parks to allow us to charge. We're gonna try them out. And a couple of them, like I said, are gonna be made available for public use as well. Sorry.
Police will have their.
Police have their chargers in the back here as well, already inside the compound.
Hey, great. So in addition to
fleet pickup, sorry.
In addition to the charge point data here, the IT department also has shared with us and has given us this transition ArcGIS page. And I know this is something that Tom has worked with the student who made this back in 2020. So this was a grad student project, and now we're getting this. So we're able to update it and work on it as more renewables come online. So it just talks about the progress. It has a nice dashboard here of the grid mix and some of the installations here. So this is definitely something that, we want to work on as more capacity is brought online, and just keep iterating over it, making it look nice for the public. And this could be an opportunity to maybe work with CSUP students or other interested parties who's in GIS.
I went to, I was asked to hear his dissertation. He gave a presentation, right, to his advisory committee. He went to Denver, University of Denver. And he was a environmental engineering student doing a master's degree. And he built this this mapping site that talked about Pueblo's renewable energy. And he was a Pueblo, he was from Pueblo. So he offered this to the city installed it in his website, but it does need some maintenance to kind of keep the numbers up to date. And I don't think that's happened. So it's a good idea, but it requires somebody behind the screen to give it the right information, right?
Yeah, I think to that point, I noticed the energy mix is not correct.
Yeah. Yeah, so what I'm saying is, it's really not, it's a 2 or 3 years old.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So going back to transportation for a little bit, we're working through the EV readiness plan. We're getting the vendor under contract now to work on that. So we're planning the kickoff meeting. Like Andrew said, there's more chargers in procurement. Also, the Colorado Energy Office is funding our e-bike grant. So the city will be getting an e-bike share program, and they want that for the summer months. So hopefully we can get everything together, ready for that. So bikes coming to town. And then we're also working with a vendor to look at the charging fuel and infrastructure grant. There is a proposal for a vendor that wants to come in and develop the EV chargers. So we're considering that as we work through the EV readiness plan. And then 2 weeks ago, some of us took a tour of the water reclamation plant. We took a tour, talked about if it's possible to maybe do some energy recovery projects. They said that they completed a sustainability study for the plant. And unfortunately, that's not out yet, but if that is, I'll be able to share it and get feedback on that if there's any projects that we could consider. But that also brought me to my next point. If there's any other facilities or buildings that the commission would want to take a tour to look at any efficiency projects, that's something that I can coordinate in the future. And then just a couple dates to keep in mind. So February 12th is when the ISAC committee will present to city council at their work session. So if anyone's interested to hear that, can either attend in person, I know I'll be there, or online as well. Facebook and Channel 17 broadcast that. And then also on February 20th at CSU Pueblo at the Oshiato Center, from 2 to 4 is the New Day Hydrogen Community Kickoff event for the hydrogen project that's coming to town. So that should be a very exciting event to educate the community and fleets about this hydrogen fuel that's coming to Pueblo. And then also, like Ken said, on February 23rd, we have a brief meeting with Mayor Graham. So we'll come up with some plans and what we want to share with her on that day. Okay. And that concludes my updates for everyone.
Oh. A couple things up there. Just make sure you get Laura's notes. She's got some questions.
Okay. Okay, CEO, we're gonna zip code taking that vehicle exchange program and present the plan. Okay. Yep, so those notes I'll be taking in.
You save this at the end of the meeting, right?
Yeah.
Who was the selected vendor for the EV RFP?
For the EV readiness plan?
Yeah, the readiness plan.
It's a company called Iconergy.
Iconergy.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you.
Yes. Okay.
I did have one, just to piggyback, and I'm sorry, for anyone online who may not know me or here, I'm Andrew Hayes, Director of Public Works for the city. I just wanted to piggyback on Ken's comment about the February 12th meeting, and it ties in, I guess, because as I can be there during the work session, the ordinance that Ken mentioned that's being presented related to the energy performance contract is an ordinance to basically set aside funds to cover the cost of the investment grade audit that would take place at the front end of the EPC contracting effort. This is important, I guess, because as we move forward here, so if nothing's static, leadership in the city is transitioned a little bit. Some of the council members that are there are familiar with the energy performance contract structure. They've been briefed on it previously, but there's certainly some new faces up there that may not be familiar with the structure. I've had individual conversations with a few people about the basics of it, but having some support from this commission will be very, very helpful. I think in making sure it's not just us standing out there alone saying, hey, I need to set aside some money. One of the advantages of, I guess, this particular case is we're setting aside $125,000. That's enough to cover about 500,000 square feet of building space, which is about a third of our building footprint. And that's probably a good number to start with. We can also come back and do more later. But based on the cost per square foot that CEO briefed us on, that's enough to get about 500,000 square feet of our building space done. So if the energy audit identifies projects that the city decides to undertake and the energy savings generated by those projects is sufficient, it may be that the city doesn't even have to pay for that audit out of those funds. So I'm going to be there tap dancing a little bit and explaining how we need this money, but we may not spend it. So it may be a little complicated, but it's certainly an important time, I guess, particularly as council and the mayor transition is going on, that we, if you're interested in seeing this push forward, it's a good time to be there to speak up about it.
Is it the work session or the regular meeting?
So in the work session with PISAC, and in the regular meeting will be the ordinance presentation. It'll actually be first reading.
Okay.
My guess is that somebody will probably have a question and decide to pull it off for discussion. Second reading would take place, I believe, February 26th. So I'm remembering the dates right. But the last meeting in February would be after your meeting with Mayor Grant. So that's a good agenda topic to have on there, just to reiterate support for that. If you're interested in it, it's certainly, it makes great energy sense, number one. Number two, we get to recapitalize some of the energy consuming systems in some of our buildings. And thirdly, we don't need to make a major capital outlay up front to do those projects, which are all three big advantages for going forward with this way. So.
And how can the commission best help? Is it simply being present at the meeting? Do you want us to make a comment during public comment? Do you want us to send a written letter of support? Or
I think having a letter from the commission would be helpful, number one.
okay.
That might be good to do, to send something to council as body, also to the mayor if you'd like. Certainly she's going to hear from me about what we're doing and what the intent is. But reiterating that support from a commission standpoint is certainly going to be helpful. I think that being present at the meeting also speaks volumes. It's usually one of those things when there's folks in the room present for a particular topic, it lends credence. And obviously there's enough support out there that people are willing to spend their time, being present in favor of it. Okay. Again, on February 12th, I don't anticipate there's going to be a public hearing. There may not be an opportunity to speak on it. But the February 26th meeting, there would certainly be an
second, that would be the final reading. Then they have.
So is that sort of the deadline for us getting the written support, or should we have the written support before the 12th?
It sounds like we need it for the 12th.
The 12th would be ideal. Okay, got it to consider, but anytime before they have the final vote, really. The sooner the better, just.
So is that, you feel like you could draft and put together before the 12th?
Are you asking me? Or-
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I was gonna say, I'll do it unless somebody else wants to do it.
It doesn't have to be lengthy either.
Let's give a paragraph or something like that.
And again.
And what we'll do, okay, so this is gonna happen in the next couple days, okay? So probably want to have this done by Friday. So that Andrew can have it in his pocket for Monday. I'll draft a letter tomorrow. I'll send it out to the commission for any edits or modifications. And then we'll approve it and give it to Andrew as the commission. Okay,
that'd be great.
Again, the ordinance is very straightforward. This is simply an ordinance to set aside funds for it. It also approves us to sign the MOU to basically enter the agreement with CEO to move forward.
If you understand this EPC thing, we've talked about it in our meetings, but it's a multi-step process. So, this is like step 1 and 2, just, get the memorandum of understanding, right? Which really, what you're going to do is in the next step is where you're going to hire a consultant to come in and evaluate all these buildings. Mm-hmm. And if you don't go through with the energy performance contracts, then you have to pay that consultant. And that's the money that Andrew's going for. If you go through, the energy savings that you make in your buildings is going to pay for everything. So the idea is that this whole program costs you nothing. There's some, you have to make some investments, but you'll get them back in lower cost of energy. So, and I think that's what the city council needs to understand, is that he's asking for money that he probably will never even spend.
It'll likely, part of one of the touching things is always when we don't have something in the budget and we go to reserves to pull money up. This is an ask for $125,000 from the city reserve. But it's likely to go straight back to the reserve as soon as, once this project is, once we get past the audit stage and we've identified projects that will cover the cost of that audit. At that time, those funds can be de-obligated, put back in the reserve at that time. So it's an important point. It's a subtle distinction. It looks like we're spending money and we're setting money aside, obligating it for this purpose. But it is not necessary that we're gonna have to spend $125,000 outright.
Great, thank you.
George had organized the meeting that I attended this week with DOLA. Okay, now I know this is more on the soft side of things. It's not the energy utility regulation stuff, but their comment is that there's money to kind of cover that for the city. If we go for grants, and she put out a table of all the cities that have done this already, and Pueblo is not one of them, by the way. That we might not even need that money. A grant will cover it. I think all we have to do is ask. But you have to make the commitment first to do the EPC, right? So I think that's another piece, and I'll try to build that into the recommendation.
And this ordinance is, again, kind of, as you said, step one. It'll get the ball rolling, allow us to enter the process and start doing the audit to determine what projects might be selectable even. So this does not pick projects. It doesn't say we're gonna go renovate a building. This is strictly to get the audit process started and to set aside the funds to cover our obligation should we not choose to do any projects.
Great, thank you, Andrew and Ken. Are there any other questions or comments before we move on?
Just real fast, I just wanted to, this is edgy. I was writing you an email, George, but I thought I could address it, and Alan, Andrew too. Are we still working with Black Hills? Black Hills, I think John can confirm whether they're still doing it. Gives free energy audits to commercial buildings. And I want to make sure we're still continuing to do that to see if there's any motors or energy efficient, low hanging things that we could be doing at the time. Because as you know, we put doing some of this off because we thought these contracts for having consultant come in and do it. But this is a long process, and I just want to make sure we're still looking at all these buildings and making sure something's being replaced, HVAC unit, heating unit, or motors or things, because Black Hills has rebates for those, and they can also help us with the envelope to make sure they're efficient.
So Edgy, I think the right way to do this is through an energy performance contract, because that contractor is going to know. So you go through the Colorado Energy Office to do this, and this is kind of the way Colorado was outlined to do this. They have a list of pre-qualified contractors. You go request their bids, and they come in and bid. You choose the one that suits your organization the best, or the city the best, and then go execute that. And the idea is that they have the information about rebates from Black Hills, from Excel, from the state, from the federal government, from the Department of Energy, from Inflation Reduction Act, all these things. So they're educated in how to utilize that money, and they will come back with a plan to say, here's how you go do this, and even help and supply the contractors to do all this stuff. So the city doesn't have to put resources into it, other than maybe a George and Andrew, just to kind of manage, to make sure that the I's are dotted and T's are crossed type thing. So I think this is a much more rigorous approach to it. Now, it's not to say that Black Hills can't help us in the buildings that are not part of this. So yeah, I mean, sure, we want to get every focus on this that we can.
Yeah, just a reminder, Ken, you and I had this, and then the whole group had the same discussion a year ago. So this all is going to happen. These contracts and everything could be 3 months, 5 months, 6 months. I used to do energy audits for Excel for commercial and industrial. It's a simple process. I'd talk to them. I'd go out to the building, go through all their rooms and stuff. And back then we were giving demand side energy money. We were giving them $120 per every kilowatt they saved. This is really important over the months. If we can save, 10%, 20% on a few buildings here and there, and it's all free. Unless I'm wrong, John, are they still giving free energy audits for buildings?
So it depends on the program, Edgy, but yes, they do have a commercial building audit. I think what you were referring to was I can't remember, it was the SEM program.
SEM.
Yep.
So we got 3 different audits. We did our City Hall, Fire Station 4, I believe, and we did PMJC as well. Those were, I guess, part of the difference here is it was an opportunity to confirm some understanding we thought we had in some of our high energy use buildings, and B, it was not an investment grade audit per se. So it's not something we could use to go in and finance energy or projects using energy savings.
Right.
So the energy performance contract structure is going to be such that it provides the financial tools to also be able to move these projects forward.
Right.
Those audits are great in that they, particularly if we didn't have any other understanding, we hadn't done any other homework. It was a great baseline survey. The auditors walked in, inspected equipment, reviewed bills, but they didn't measure. There were no measurements of equipment. There was no cost measurement or anything like that. So,
Yeah,
So in other words, if you were just gonna do it,
yes,
that was helpful. But
Correct.
if you need a financing mechanism such as energy performance contract, it was, yeah.
that's right.
Got it.
So you understand that? I think that really kind of nails it. I mean, we have to be able to figure out how to finance all this stuff. And that's part of the job of this energy performance contract. And basically through the mechanisms of the state, they'll give you a path to do this. And really, it doesn't, you save that money up front. So you wouldn't go forward with this. The risk is that you decide, no, we're not going to do this because it's not going to save us enough money. The idea behind the energy performance contract is you save enough to make it, that it makes sense to do it. So I think we need to go through the formal government approach, since we're doing this on a government organization. If you wanted to do this for your private organization, I'd say, let's get Edgy to do it. But this kind of is a comprehensive way. We've talked about it. We're going forward with it. This is what we're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, and please, I hope you didn't think I said don't do that. Andrew, the buildings right now may be making plans to change this equipment out, and it doesn't cost the city anything. You can, right now, if the city was planning on putting in a new HVAC with a high efficiency, they don't have to do nothing except fill out a one sheet of paper for the rebate. And they'll get a rebate, and they don't have to spend any extra money. And there may be 10 of these things that are going to happen in the next few months that the city can get by money back. And some of them, even an energy plan that they're doing, like say they're going to change out some light fixtures, some light bulbs. Those are all rebated. And so, no, I think it's a wonderful thing.
There's more than just those rebates too. A lot more money out there to help with this. So, the Inflation Reduction Act gives you money. There's Department of Energy money. There's Colorado Energy Office money. There's DOLA money. And those energy performance contractors will know how to apply for those things. So I think we need to move on to a different topic.
Right. So we're going to keep moving forward with that. But at this time, I'd like to welcome and bring in Grace Rink, who is so gracious with her time today. Grace and I connected, and we had a previous conversation about just her background and experience with the city of Denver, being the first chief climate officer, as well as just some insights for Pueblo that she's had. So Grace, thank you so much for making time for us today, and really appreciate someone of your caliber providing us insight. So as you just heard, these are some of the energy issues that we're working through, and we would just like to hear your insights or any other additional strategies you may have for us here in Pueblo.
Thanks so much. And thank you for the invitation. I'm so glad to be here. First off, it's really exciting to hear that you already have so many plans underway. I fully support the idea of an EPC contract. And I can hear that there are different ways of going about that and different benefits to the city. I think that it sounds like you're already connected to the Colorado Energy Office on that, and that's tremendous. I mean, first off, they're experts in it. They already have a lot of money to help support that work, and then they're going to have even more coming through them from the federal government out to cities over the next year. And I know that they're staffing up rapidly to help with that. It's a lot of money through the Inflation Reduction Act, right? The IRA, and it's going to come through in a lot of different formats. And so being connected to the folks at the Colorado Energy Office is the best way to stay in touch with that. I think, George, something that you and I talked about that could be helpful to the city is the idea of coming up with actually developing a plan. And it doesn't have to be overwhelming. I think it doesn't have to be a many years long effort. It can be. I think that it just depends on how engaged you want to be with your community and how brass tacks you need to get for your mayor and your council and the other decision makers on, here are all the, laying out, what are all the things that you want to do in Pueblo? And what is the order in which you want to do them? What's going to have the biggest bang for the buck? And not only in terms of emissions reductions, but improvements, right? It's about improving quality of life, improving transportation options. And then as was mentioned earlier, how sustainability or climate action work can contribute to the economic vitality of the city. I think all of that can be addressed through a planning process, and it might be something worth considering. Is that something that this group has thought about working on, an actual, whether it's no matter what you call it, resiliency plan, climate action plan?
Yeah. So I can maybe speak to that. We've been talking about having a strategy session to kind of number one, kind of bring the new members in to the organization to kind of and have them input into what we should be doing. But the Pueblo government is a little complex because we have a county government that does a lot of the stuff, and then a city government, and the communication between those two could be improved. Okay, on this climate side of things. So there is a master plan for the city or for the county, and there's an energy component that hasn't been put into that. But it seems like the county is probably a little ahead on this than the city is. So I'm hoping that this commission can make that connection so that we're all, at least our vectors are aligned in the same direction. There's stuff that we probably need to be doing with our building codes to kind of promote electrification. So I think we need to make that connection and a strategy to enable it.
Yeah, I understand that. And I think you've touched on something that, again, going back to Colorado Energy Office and the amount of money that they're going to have. One of the things that they're working on right now, the US EPA gave money to all the states that wanted it. There were 46 states that agreed. And then the largest metropolitan statistical areas in the state to create what they're calling climate pollution reduction grant plans. So CPRG plans. So the state's plan is due March 1st. And then their first grant application is actually due April 1st. And from what I've been following it over the last few months, and from what I understand, I think the state is going to be applying for funding to create a statewide building decarbonization program, where they would actually fund, whether they're funding cities or they might actually be even funding building owners directly to do electrification in their buildings. So transitioning from gas-fired furnaces to air source heat pumps or other technology, including water heaters, electric stoves, all the above. There's going to be an enormous amount of money available for that. So I think what I'm trying to say is let's also think about following the money. Like, we know that there's money coming through for certain activities. And so if you wanted to focus on, let's create a plan for how Pueblo might decarbonize its building stock. Which type of buildings do we want to look at? Well, we want to make a plan for our own city buildings. And then you have plenty of residential, right? Whether you're working on single family homes or apartment buildings, especially affordable housing, whether it's actual affordable, like designated affordable housing, or what we call naturally occurring affordable housing. Making plans for those would really help position Pueblo to be ready to receive money from the state to then actually activate programs. That might be something worth looking at. And that's right along the lines of the building codes you were talking about. Building code work is hard. I'm sure there are some of you in the room who've worked on that before. That's almost surely a years-long process. I'm not saying don't do it. Definitely take a look at that. There's a lot of stakeholder engagement that has to be done when you're working on your building codes, not just and you also have to make sure that you actually have the support of the planning department as well as your elected officials. So those are certainly conversations that are worth starting now if we haven't started them yet.
And you know, what we don't have in the city of Pueblo is a sustainability office. You know, George is working on this part-time. So I think, you know, we need to, you know, because there's so much to know and so much to do. It's not a part-time job, right? So
It's challenging, right? But I just don't want you to think that you're alone in that. There are many cities, even large ones like Pueblo, that have gotten started exactly the way you are right now. In fact, when I used to live in Illinois before I moved to Colorado, and I was a sustainability consultant on my own, right? So I hung up my own shingle. I worked with a number of smaller cities that had a citizens committee just like you, that was really the heart of the work, like really the ones who were pushing the city to do that, you know, to make a plan, to take on actions. And oftentimes they were assigned a staff person for whom this was part of their responsibility. It wasn't the whole thing. And so it's very common, I think, for cities to get started this way. So you can do a lot with what you have. And there are, whether there's nonprofit partners as well as for-profit companies who are ready to help you with that. And I don't know if George had a chance to tell you about the different organizations that I connected him with just in the last week. I should also note that DOLA, the Department of Local Affairs, their resiliency office has grants available now for planning. And so that could be something to tap into as well.
Yeah, I did see there is the DOLA grant for the climate action plan. So that's something that we're definitely looking at. And Grace, you said something that I liked the last time we spoke, is that when it comes to sustainability, you know, you don't need to have a tax for projects like in Denver. You can meet people where they're at and look at the problems that are existing and how we can work together.
Yeah, I would say I agree with that. And I think that even in the Denver example, there were activists in the city who wanted to put that tax on the ballot before Denver had a plan for what it would do with the money. And that didn't go over well. And so there was a big negotiation between the activists and city council and the mayor's office. This is back in 2018, 2019. And they decided that, okay, we need to actually, you know, everyone was willing, let's come up with a plan first to make the case for why, you know, whether it's a tax or whatever funding mechanism was going to be needed in order to generate, you know, a lot of money to do the work. So I think that's a big part of stakeholder engagement, right? I mean, anytime the government wants to raise more money one way or another, whether it's a fee or a tax, the people want to know what is going to be spent on. And so that's another valuable reason why you might want to go through a planning process. And again, I don't want to overwhelm you with the idea that you need to come up with like a 100-page plan on all things sustainability and climate action for Pueblo. You could keep it really focused to begin with and say, listen, we're already doing this EPC work. We're already really interested in electrification and building codes. We know that the Colorado Energy Office is going to have money available for decarbonization projects. Let's focus on, you know, a plan for building decarbonization. And we're gonna look at that first. And what do we need to do to make sure that our residents are aware of and ready to accept rebates? That's another thing that's going to be coming through the Energy Office within the next year. A lot of money for not just tax credits, but actual rebates, real money that comes back to residents for doing work in their homes. You can do the same thing with transportation if that's a hot issue. And I know I heard you mention e-bikes. So that's, you know, that's an issue you want to take on. You can take on the smaller chunks and maybe focus on like, what is it that we want to do? How much money is it going to take to do it? Where can we get that money? And then if there's any backfilling that might need to be done for the city, then you can start talking about, okay, how would we raise that money? But maybe take advantage of the opportunities that are out there now, so that your people, your residents see you going after the money that's available before you go and ask them for more money.
Awesome. Thank you, Grace, for
sharing. Oh, can I add one more? I don't know what waste is like in your city, but if you're not already aware of this one, the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, so CDPHE, I believe it's in 2025, it will start collecting money from large product manufacturers through what's called the Extended Producer Responsibility Law. And that money is going to go to the state, and then it's going to go out to cities and counties to fund recycling programs. And so if that is an issue for your city as well, that is definitely something to have on the radar. And again, another good reason to have a plan to say when this money becomes available, here's how we would use it, so that as soon as they have grant applications come out or funding applications, whatever they're going to call it, you're ready to go and you'll be one of the first in line to get the money.
Yeah, you know, I know we do have a pretty great recycling organization called Pueblo Recycle Works. But, you know, they don't accept plastics, because there's nobody that wants to buy that, right? So we have this
Yeah.
big, I think that's a universal problem. You know, so we have all this plastic waste that can go nowhere, although it says, you know, on these containers, it says, we can recycle, but you can't.
Right.
You know, as, we do have a general waste problem with our dump. There was I attend the work sessions and city council meetings, so I listen to what's discussed. And, you know, the problem is this, people dump their trash illegally and then leave it for the city or the county to go pick it up. And that's a big problem.
It is. We've had that same problem in Denver for a long time. And this past year, Denver actually started charging specifically for trash pickup. And it was one of the more difficult conversations we needed to have, because especially the parts of the city that are on the perimeter, small contractors knew that Denver's residents got their garbage picked up for free and they weren't charged for it. So they would illegally dump on purpose, thinking that it wasn't harming the residents by doing that. And so that became a real big issue for us. And so I think the city has had to do some more thinking about how it would do enforcement, to help prevent that kind of fly dumping from happening.
Yeah, we don't have.
I'm not saying we've solved it, but at least.
Yeah, we don't have a municipal trash service here in Pueblo. We have like about 12 different companies picking up trash. So, you know, there's a lot of work to improve that.
There are a number of cities that have recently moved to having a single hauler. And so that's also something you could think about, because it does also bring in, first off, I think it's better for residents. It's certainly better for your streets. You don't have garbage trucks passing by all the time, right? On a single residential street, which can get really congested. But there's also, it's also another revenue source for the city. So again, there's any number of cities around, at least I know of many in the Front Range that have started going to that. I think Lakewood did, I know Golden did. I think maybe Fort Collins, all just in the last couple of years.
Yeah, Pueblo made a run a few years back, but it did not go well.
Yeah, and memories are long for things like that.
I had a question for Grace.
Yes.
Grace, one of our passions is low-income renters, and I know there's some government money may be available on rebates. Can you briefly speak on anything that you may know about?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. You're right. You know, rebates are really challenging for lower income and even middle income households, because a rebate requires that you put the money out first, and then you, that you have the money to do a project and then you get paid back. And that can be really hard for people who don't have a lot of savings. And then with renters, whether they're renting in an apartment building or single family home, they don't have control over that building. They don't have a choice in, whether or not they're to replace their furnace. So at least in Denver, we did actually create some programs specifically to help the rental community. And so we did that through RFPs. We contracted with 2 different organizations. One is Colorado-based. It's called Energy Outreach Colorado, and I think they've done work in Pueblo. And another one is a national company called Block Power. And Block Power is working with apartment buildings. So they're actually working with the owner of an apartment building to transition, whether it's a large boiler that serves an entire building or individual units within the apartments, to transition all of the equipment in those units to electric. And then Energy Outreach Colorado is working with single family homes, and they're either owner occupied or renters. And the only challenge, the biggest concern that we had in each of these cases is making sure that if we were providing funding to a landlord, that once they did these upgrades, they weren't going to then either jack up the rents or kick the tenants out. And so we made sure that we had some clauses in our contracts that essentially would be clawbacks, so that we can keep an eye on those rents, make sure that they weren't getting increased significantly, and more than a market rate would after the projects are complete. So those projects are still underway. We're the city's not quite at that point yet, but the city of Denver would be happy to share all of their information with you anytime. And George, if I didn't connect you to the folks there, I'll certainly do that after this call.
Grace, does that include solar on the roofs of low-income renters?
Yeah, Denver does have programs for that too. The problem that we tend to run into with trying to put solar on lower income, the roofs of lower income households, is there tend to be more maintenance issues that need to be addressed before the solar can be put on. And that's where we ran into funding troubles, because the funding source that we had available could really only be used for the solar panel system and not for the underlying structure of the home. And so when I left the job at the end of last summer, that's definitely something that we were working on, trying to figure that one out, like to see, is there some other source of funding that we could use so that we could put solar on a home of a lower income household that also needed additional work. So if there's a house that doesn't need the work, doesn't need structural work, then we're definitely able to put solar on their roofs. But where there was structural work, we ran into some troubles.
Thank you.
This is probably an example where the county's doing a better job of this, because they do have a program to improve energy efficiency of low income, middle income folks.
Yeah, counties also tend to have the weatherization programs, right? So so anything that we can do to stack, new energy funding on top of those is going to be helpful. And that's okay. I think, if the people of Pueblo are being served well by a county program, then maybe what you want to do is lend more support for their program being more funded. If their funding is limited and it's something that you could take on as a city and say, well, we're going to serve more people than that program could, and we're going to dedicate our time to the people of Pueblo, then that might be beneficial to follow that path.
Awesome.
Oh, well, thanks so much for these ideas. Yeah. We'll definitely be in touch. Okay.
That's great. And again, you're going to succeed. I've seen it happen before. You've got a committed group here, so best of luck, and I'm always happy to help.
Awesome. Thank you, Grace. Are there any other last questions or comments? See none. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and Tom asked for my info. I'll just go ahead and put it in the chat.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so moving on to really one of the last things of the day in the spirit of planning and what we want to accomplish. I think Ken and I, we both wanted to really just kind of kick off this planning process, what we want to achieve. And in the agenda packet today, Tom shared his notes with me about some of his work that he's done for strategic planning in the past. So Tom, perhaps you could just speak a little bit about this and your experience and your suggestions.
Oh, yeah, I'd be glad to do that, George. Can you arrange the screen share?
Sure.
For those folks that are on virtual. So just to begin, as I mentioned, I have a 40-year history in industry and design, and most recently was working at the Frank Lloyd Wright Foundation and Taliesin Architects in Arizona, working as a sustainability instructor, actually, and became a lead accredited professional at that time, which was back in the early 2000s. I've done about 30 different sustainability plans, and that doesn't mean that I want to do a plan here. I just want to share as much information as I can. And I think what Grace has talked about is really quite important. And that is that we can't just roar into a plan and forget everything that's going on currently. So there's some concurrent issues that will have to be dealt with. And I think we'll need a first plan how we're going to do it, because I'm going to provide a lot of information. And in fact, what I'm going to show you is a really rough draft of just pulling things out of my consulting files to talk about a strategic plan. So, they can be lots of different things. I mean, it can be very, very intensive. It can be very short. But I think we have a lot of things when I started putting things down, I realized we have a lot of issues to deal with. And so we should, first of all, it's really important for us to look at what is our mission. Can you share the documents or not?
You should be able to screen share, Tom.
I thought you could do it.
Yeah, I should be able to. I do have it.
My desktop has the next meeting agenda. Everything is on it on my desktop, so I can probably do it. I don't want to. If you can't write quickly, I will try to do that.
It might be faster for you to do it, Tom.
I don't see a place here to share. I don't see a place to share. maybe it's at the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should be able to share screen toward the bottom.
It's a toggle. It's
We're not seeing it.
avoiding me.
Oh, okay, it's a little square box that has an up arrow.
You know, I generally know what, I know what it looks like. I don't have one.
I mean, I can pull it up. It's here in front of us in the paper comment, or paper packet, but I did
I'm
share.
glad you have them.
Well,
So do I. But I want, there are 3 or 4 of us that are on virtual that don't have it. Yeah, there's nowhere here I can find it.
let me just reshare and I can pull it up.
Okay, can you just stand up there and hold it?
There you go. George, if you move the whole screen up a bit. And what we're looking at here, I mean, your whole picture, move it to the top so we can, and then we can expand it a bit. Can you just toggle the whole screen upwards into the, no, the whole screen, it's too low on our screens. Not the visual, the whole app.
I don't think we can do any better, Tom. I think you're gonna have to deal with what we got here. Is that better? Okay, maybe that's better.
Okay, well, I'll let the folks who are on virtual get, it's going to be very hard to read for us here. But what we have is a graphic that essentially gives you the basics of a strategic plan that that it starts with your mission and what it is that you're set up to do. I've done a lot of corporate strategic plans and only a couple of nonprofit commission type plans. So it's a little bit different. We're not trying to necessarily increase our profits or expand our market share. What we're trying to do is expand our influence and the kinds of things we want to try to do. So from the mission that we try to establish what our goals are. We want to talk about what the desired outcomes of those goals are. We want to work some strategies, which is kind of what we're doing now. We're using action items. We're doing actionable things, which we assume are somewhat related to our mission. And certainly the energy performance contracts are immediately related to energy efficiency side. I think one of the things we aren't necessarily doing a great job of is promoting renewable energy as the solution for our community. So that's one of the things we could do. So there are the strategies. Then we move into the measurement and targets. What we want to do is say, where do we want to be and how can we measure how we're doing? So that when we have meetings, we don't want to put this plan on a shelf. We want to be able to make it a living document that we continually refer back to so we can understand how well we're progressing. Also, strategic plans can be changed and amended, and that's important. If we're going in the wrong direction, it's okay to come back and review what you want to do or what you want to try differently. And then you talk about the results and you sort of become engaged in the circle again. What I've added down below here, which is now out of my vision, are some highlighted statements from a McKinsey study that was done for one of my projects.
You can scroll down.
Oh, no, well, okay, that's gonna work. So I can't really read it because I can't see it. But I think what we're talking about here is that you start with the issues and that you're talking about managers here, but I think what we're talking about here is that the people that will be doing this are the people that are the people that are doing the plan are the people that are going to be doing the work as well. So the first liberating change managers can make to improve the quality of the planning process that begin by deliberately and thoughtfully identifying and discussing the strategic issues will have the greatest impact on future commission performance. And I would suggest that we consider what is normally a SWOT process is something which will help us reveal the advantages and impediments to the plan. It's important to know what's going to go against you while you're talking about what you know is going to work for you. Implement a strategic performance management system, and that's a very lofty way of saying just manage it understand a way that it's manageable. In the end, many companies in this case fail to execute the chosen strategy. more than a quarter of surveys respondents said their companies had plans but no execution path. 45% reported that planning processes failed to track the execution of strategic initiatives. And I've seen that happen. Once you put it on paper and you've said, those are our goals, and then it tends to sort of fragment and you go off in different directions. What I've added below these two comments, I think are very important comments, are the SWOT analysis definition. And I let you read that. I think those of you that are on the on virtual, we should get you, try and get, I'll try, if I get your emails, I'll get you, Edgy, I have yours. Grace, I'll have yours. And Michael, I don't have yours yet. Laura, I know. So I'll get those out to those people that were on the call so that you can see that. If you move on up, George. Yeah, so there's a comment here that I've just thrown a lot of stuff together, guys. And I think they're all important, but just don't back down a little bit. I can't just give me, there you go. The changing energy landscape, it was mentioned a little bit earlier. I think Edgy may have been the one that did that, but I'm not sure. In contrast to nuclear power, wind, solar are now the lowest cost and fastest growing sources of new generation. Colorado's largest utility, Xcel, is on track to provide 85% of its electricity from wind and solar by 2030. These variable resources need to be firmed with flexible resources such as demand response, storage, hydropower, as well as expanded transmission. Traditional baseload power plants, which form the backbone of the 20th century electric grid, cannot meet the need. Flexibility via more distributed energy generation and management gives rise to new decentralized generation. Sorry for the clunky reading. It's kind of hard to read. I should know it by heart, but it's important. I think this is really important because the planning process for all energy creation is now going to be shortened because things are happening so much faster. I know John knows this. I've talked to John considerably about the things that Black Hills is doing. I think they understand it very well and are responding pretty appropriately. We look on then to the next outline. It's just an outline which going too fast for me, George. I can't read that fast. Not that I'm going to read it, but just drop down just a little bit more, please. There we go. Now a little more. So I just get the top of where the outline starts there, please.
You want to do the other direction?
Oh, the next page?
No, other direction. To like number one.
Cut down.
There you go.
Sorry about this. Sorry. George and I are not linked together. Top-down priorities. I've listed this for you to read and look at. This is old now. I've done this. I did this when I first got involved with the commission. And I just did it as an exercise of my own to try to help understand how I would try to nudge folks in a particular direction. So it may be up for some updating. But we should monitor, guide, and inform local energy franchises for cost and their renewable energy mission. And that includes Black Hills and Gas Xcel. Energy efficiency building benchmarking, and there are things called REACH codes, which we can put together. That comes out of my lead training and work that I've done there. City buildings infrastructure, water board. I'm not quite sure why you put the military in there, but the metro districts, if we can make a little bit better connection with the county. Doing performance contracts, which is moving along quite well, commercial building infrastructure and community housing. And I think working with the housing authority is really important because there are some buildings that putting solar on them is the last thing you should do. Either they can be weatherized. There's many in Pueblo. We have so much old stock that a lot of it's going to have to be knocked down and part of urban renewal. Community adaptation and collaboration. We have a city and community. We have a city and county health department. We have a city and county building code department. Look at the way we can deal with circular energy and so forth. I'd let you read this and continue with it. I would hope that we could come back to the next meeting with more ideas and have more people have more questions or more ideas about what I've presented. George, if you move up just a little bit more. We just talked about the headers, which is economic development. I'm very pleased and interested that Dr. Wakefield is with the commission at the moment, and I have some great quotes from Dr. Wakefield going back to I think it's an April 2015 comment or a Public Chieftain article actually, where Dr. Wakefield has mentioned how important it is for Pueblo to consider a new type of a new approach to how we're getting the kinds of new jobs and new types of businesses in Pueblo. I would also share that. I'm hoping that's still an idea that's still alive, because I really love those comments a long time ago. So we talk about electrification, various links and connections. I put a whole bunch of hot links here on URLs for people to look things up. And for me, it's a big, broad issue, and there are lots of things for us to discuss. I hope we get to many of these things and have questions about them, or whether or not we continue doing them, or if they're even valuable. So, I'll leave it now, because I'm going to have to jump off very shortly anyway. I would like
So Tom, before we get off this topic, how do you suggest we get started? Okay, I mean, there's a couple ways. We were hoping that we're going to get facilitated by somebody from the city, but we don't want to facilitate it in the soft stuff, right? Hello, I'm Ken, I do this, X, Y, Z. It would be better to jump into the, you have a good outline. Maybe there are more that kind of fill in the blanks type stuff. Would that be the SWOT analysis? Would that get us there?
Well, that's a good thing to start with, and I think it requires a meeting, a time to meet to do it. Okay. I don't think I think we want to sort of get away from the internet idea here and try to. What I'd love to do is to have big, blackboards and some whiteboards, and do some visuals that are a lot more important. Write things down as people mention them. I'm not a big fan of the sticky tag idea, where everybody has a pile of tags and you just, put them on a wall. But I think we can do a lot by just writing down what it is, what's going on now that we need to keep working on, for instance, and what we want to take on. But look at the longer term, which isn't very long. I think if we look out a couple of years, there's a lot going to happen. But we really have a good calendar now that takes us from now till 2025 till 2030, 2031. I'll be gone, but I think other people can then carry this on into 2040 and so forth. And I think we really need to merge ideas with the county, because what we're doing is the most appropriate way to go forward. It's the appropriate thing to do is not to bring a multi-billion project here to get the taxes and jobs, as much as I want to do that. But we have 16 years with taxes being paid till 2040. We have 16 years basically to redo and diversify our taxes. We've got to do that. And I think Dr. Wakefield, the comments he made are exactly on what we're trying to do that. So Ken, I think you're right. I think we can come back with the SWOT idea first. What's against us, what's working for us, and start there, and then start. We know the mission. There's no question about that. It's renewable energy on 2035, 100%, and energy efficiency is part of that. So we can work from there as our two main objectives from the mission.
Okay. So how much time do we need to allocate to the SWOT? What would you think? I mean, would a half hour be enough? 45 minutes?
Oh, well, I don't how long.
Well,
we're not very.
I'm just thinking if we can integrate it into one of our meetings, right?
No, I don't think so. I think it's really a separate project. Frankly, I don't think so. We think the meetings are very well structured. They need to last an hour and a half, whatever they're going to last, and not go beyond that. And this can take an awful lot of time. Right now, I mean, I'm looking at the number of people here, and most of the people haven't talked. So, I think that's the kind of thing. If we have all the commission members in a work session to do this, it could be an hour or two for the SWOT time.
I'm a trained strategist also.
Okay.
And one thing that Tom said that I think is really important, if we're really going to start the process, I think SWOT is a good place, but I think starting with the goals and objectives, a lot of times that will drive the information that you're seeking in the SWOT analysis. There might be a way that we could electronically have people submit ideas for the SWOT. We can cull those, combine them, and then bring them together to a meeting that might better use meeting time.
Yeah, I agree with Mike.
Unfortunately, we go month to month. And if it's going to take 2-3 months, it's okay rather than not do it. But I'd be very concerned about the time and losing momentum in the meantime. It's really, in my opinion, better to do this, go after it, and get it done change it if you want to change it, but move on as quickly as we can.
Yeah,
Great,
I
thank
agree.
you, Tom. Yeah.
So what did, Paul, right? Is-
Mike.
Mike, I'm sorry. Would it be, reasonable for you and Tom to get together and figure out the best way to approach this?
We could do that. I'd like to loop in George too, if we can, set up the electronic access so that we could all just go in and populate the SWOT with information in those areas. It would streamline our process of looking at the data.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something I can do.
Okay.
So thank you, Tom, for sharing this and bringing up this outline, and Dr. Wakefield as well. We're just about at time, everyone. Is there any other comments or any other additions to this strategic outline?
I have a comment that hopefully will be short. We don't want to spend a ton of time about on the squishy, people aspect. But you can't just ignore it, because ultimately all problems come down to people and behavior. We don't have to invent the technology to go renewable. We have to convince people that it's the right thing to do, that it's cost effective, those kind of things. And so being able to do the people part of it is very important, including within this group, because we need to all be working together and on the same page, and having a little bit of camaraderie with each other helps that process.
Thank you for your comment, Alan.
So you can go over here.
Yes, exactly. That means we go to Walters after this is over. It's just down the street.
So I'd like to just close and thank our new members and guests for joining today. I do want to say, for our guests here today, if you're interested in joining the commission, I'd recommend applying as soon as possible, because I am going to keep recruiting people until we're at max capacity. And I think we're at 11 right now, and we have a max of 15. So let's get that capacity and continue to work through these issues. And any other?
Yeah, I was gonna say, before we close the meeting, are there any other inputs that people want? So, okay, outside of the strategy stuff. Okay, so.
Great. Well, are we adjourning, Ken?
Yeah, let's adjourn the meeting if that's, unless anybody objects to that, we're adjourned.
Great.